Now I'm going to show you how to wind thread onto a bobbin. So the first thing, which is very important, is that you only use bobbins which are the dedicated bobbins for the make and model of your machine. They may all look alike to the naked eye, but they are not. They may vary slightly between the diameter, the height, and the circumference. And if you use the wrong bobbin, it can actually damage your machine. So I'm going to put the thread on. To remove this thread holder, put my thread on. You may have a vertical thread spindle, that doesn't matter. Just make sure that your thread is secured. And I'm going to take it round this little metal spring here. This is a tension spring to wind the bobbin. So it's important that the thread is neatly tucked underneath, so there's a bit of resistance onto the thread. That will ensure that your bobbin is tightly wound. Then I'm going to take the end of the thread and poke it through from the inside of the bobbin to the outside. And then I'm going to wind it round a few times just to secure the end of that thread. So you don't want a great big leg of thread hanging out. Then I'm going to place the bobbin on the bobbin winder spindle. So push it down firmly and just check that the bobbin is going to wind clockwise, so the thread is going to go onto the bobbin. So I'm going to push this to the right, which will engage it with the winding mechanism on the machine. And I'm going to move, if I pull out the end wheel, I'm going to pull this out. And what this does is it declutches the needle, so the needle will now not move. It disengages the drive which feeds the needle from the motor. Different machines handle this in different ways. Some machines you don't need to do anything separately, that once you've moved the bobbin winder over, it automatically does it. But check your manual, it will tell you. And sometimes this threading system here will vary from one machine to another too. So what I'm showing you is a general technique. It may not apply to your specific machine. So all I'm going to do now is just pop the machine on, obviously, and press the foot pedal, and that means my bobbin is going to wind. So you just wind as much thread on as you need. It will automatically stop once the thread gets to this point. It will automatically cut out. Once you've wound as much as you want, reverse that process. So push this back to the left, remove this bobbin, take this out of this tension dial, then we can cut our thread. So again, machines actually come equipped with a little thread cutter. On this one it is round the side, so round here, and pull it through. So I'm going to take the thread around this back area here, so you can see it is actually indicated with an arrow. Again, the threading procedure is fairly general for most machines, but there is some variations, so you will need to check your own manual. Now, my presser foot is up. I'll explain that later. It's a bit technical, but have your presser foot up when you're threading. So the thread is coming round here, down this slot, down this channel here, and there is an arrow at the bottom, so the thread's coming round and back up. This is called the thread uptake lever, this piece here. Now this pops up and down as the machine is sewing. So if it's not obvious at the moment, just turn the wheel until it pops up. And again, you can see the arrow on the machine here indicates that you go around the back from right to left. And just make sure that you pull the thread completely through so it sits right at the front. If you don't make sure you pull it right through, it could fall back into the machine. So we're bringing it back down this channel. So that's our first 3 stages. We have stage 1, 2, 3. Right. I've come closer now because I need to show you the final stages. There is this arm across the top of the needle, so the thread needs to go in behind that. And again, there's great variance from one machine to another, but they will always have a little thread guide at the top of the needle, because the purpose of that is it takes the thread from this angle here down the front of the needle. Then the final stage is to thread the needle itself. So in this machine I have a needle threader, so it's just a case of ensuring the needle is in the top position, bringing my threader hook through the eye of the needle and passing the thread across. Now if you don't have a needle threader on your machine, you'll have to thread the needle manually. And this will pull a loop of thread through to the back, and then we grab that loop. It doesn't want to let go. There we go. That's it, the machine threaded. Right, the final stage is pop the bobbin in. So pop the bobbin cover. For a drop-in bobbin style, hold the machine like, hold the bobbin like a letter P, so the thread is coming off on the left. Put the thread in. There's a slot on the front which the thread comes through, and we take the thread and pull it to the left. So you hear that click, and if you forget, there's an arrow marked on here to show you. So through the slot and pull it to the left. So the bobbin should now wind anti-clockwise when you pull the thread. Finally, last stage in preparation of sewing, I'm going to hold the top thread. So I'm going to hold the top thread, use your hand wheel to do one rotation, so the needle will go down and back up, and look what's happened to the thread. So the top thread has come around, it's looped with the bobbin thread, and now when we see this loop, you can pull on that, and there's your loop of bobbin thread popped up. So we now have 2 threads. So tuck those down through the presser foot out to the back. That keeps them out of mischief, so they're not going to get snagged into your work or wrap themselves around the presser foot as you're sewing. And then pop the bobbin cover back on. So that is you ready for sewing. If your machine has a front loading bobbin, I'll show you what that means. You need to pull this accessory case out to access the bobbin. So what you do is you remove this bobbin case. So this is a completely separate bobbin case. So this time you need to hold the thread on the bobbin like the number 6. So the thread is off to the left but heading upwards. Then you pop it into the bobbin case and make sure that the thread passes through the slot. So pull it down and click it into place, like so. Then I'm going to flip it over, hold this lever, and that will grip the bobbin. And you're going to insert it into the machine so the arm of the bobbin case slides into the cavity in the top wall. Then you're going to turn the hand wheel as before to make it do a complete revolution, which will pull a loop of bobbin thread up. Now you see I haven't threaded this machine, but that will pull the bobbin loop up as before, and you just pull that. So you have 2 threads at the top. You have your top thread from the top of the machine and your bobbin thread coming up through the hole in the needle plate and out under the foot to the back. So now to sew a seam is when you join 2 pieces of fabric. So I'm going to lay one piece of fabric on top of the other so the edges are aligned, so one edge completely on top of the other. I'm going to put the fabric in under the presser foot. I'm going to move the fabric back slightly, about a centimetre behind the foot. So I've got my fabric in position. The edges are aligned with my 15mm guide. There's about a centimetre of fabric behind the needle. So what we're going to do is start by sewing reverse, and that will secure the stitches and prevent them coming apart. So I'm going to hold my reverse function down. So wherever the button is on your machine, it may be here, it may be up here. Just as a reminder, the reverse function is designated by kind of like a U-turn, an upside down U with an arrow at the bottom. So I'm going to hold this down. So about 3 or 4 stitches is really all that's required just to secure my stitching. Then come forward and sew all the way down. Again, repeating the exercise you did with paper, keeping the edge of the fabric aligned with your guideline. And the machine will take the fabric from you, you don't need to push and pull it in. Then you come to the bottom of the fabric, you're just going to stop. We're going to again press the reverse lever, do about 3 or 4 stitches backwards, and that is your seam done. So remove the fabric from the machine and cut your threads, and that is your seam. So if you get to this stage and come with your fabric next week, we'll then do some work on that. We're going to be looking at seams and hems. So I'll be showing you different kinds of seams. I'll show you how to press this, how to trim it, how to neaten these raw edges to stop them fraying, and showing you different kinds of seams for different kinds of fabrics.